Hikemates, for today's podcast, we will be answering top 10 fear related questions. So stay tuned, guys. Our first question is: how is fear related to human development?
Well, you see, children learn to control their reactions to minor threat and stresses during ordinary growth. Yet, young children may not establish healthy patterns of threat or stress management if they are exposed to chronic fear and excessive danger during particularly sensitive stages in the development process. Experiencing constant fear and chronic anxiety can disrupt development of the brain for the rest of one's life.
Can fear be learned or acquired?
Fear can be learned or acquired through a process called classical conditioning, in which a neutral stimulus becomes associated with an unpleasant or painful event. The process of classical conditioning was famously demonstrated in Ivan Pavlov's experiments with dogs, where he conditioned them to associate the sound of a bell or previously neutral stimulus with food, causing them to salivate at the sound of a bell, even when no food was present. Classical conditioning is a fundamental concept in psychology and has been studied extensively to understand how humans and animals learn new behaviors and emotional responses.
Is there any possibility to overcome fear?
Is there any possibility to overcome fear? Yes, a person can overcome fear by choice. And living in fear is always a choice. A person can choose to live in that invisible force of fear. Other can choose a different storyline, one of hope, possibility, and connection. In order to deal with stress, worry, or boundary violations, some people could decide to emotionally distance themselves. Emotional detachment can be a positive coping mechanism when dealing with a temporary problem, but it can have a negative impact on your life, your relationship, if you use excessively.
How does the responses and stimuli associated with fear?
The fear response begins in the brain and spread throughout the body to adjust for the best defense or flight reaction. The fear response begins in the amygdala, a region of the brain. This almond-shaped cluster of nuclei in the brain's temporal lobe is responsible for detecting the emotional salience of stimuli. When we see a human faced with emotion, for example, the amygdala activates. With anger and fear, this reaction is more pronounced. A threat stimulus such as the sight of predator initiates a fear response in the amygdala, which activates areas involved in motor function preparation for fight or flight. It also causes the release of stress hormones and the sympathetic nervous system to activate. This results in bodily harm.
How does fear affect us psychologically?
As I've said earlier, experiencing constant fear and chronic anxiety can disrupt the development of the brain for the rest of one's life. Fear can also be a symptom of some mental health conditions. According to Davis, it's also intimately related to mood disorders like anxiety and depression, and may occasionally exacerbate or even cause these mental health issues.
How infants and young children first come to recognize and differentiate a fearful face from other emotional expression.
Infants and young children are capable of recognizing and differentiating people faces from other emotional expressions soon after birth. One way they do this is through a process called perceptual narrowing, which involves the gradual refinement of perceptual abilities to become more sensitive to the pictures and patterns that are most relevant to the child's environment. As children grow and develop, they become increasingly skilled in recognizing and differentiating between different emotional expressions, including fear. This is thought to be due in part to the development of specialized brain regions that are involved in the processing emotional information as well as the accumulation of experience with emotional stimuli.
How does behaviorism theory explain the learning process of fear in individuals, and how does this learned fear influence their subsequent behavior?
How does behaviorism theory explain the learning process of peer in individuals? And how does this learned peer influence their subsequent behavior? Watson designed an experiment to show that peer may be trained using the principle of classical conditioning. He was investigating how to condition or instill dread in people. His experiment aimed to predict and regulate behavior. Hence, peer-related behavior is just a reaction to outside stimuli.
How do we come to understand ourselves and our relationship to others? And is our social learning experience different from the way we learn about the physical world?
Self awareness is the capacity to consider and comprehend one's own thoughts, feelings, personality, and those of others. These fundamental realizations significantly affect how we assess circumstances and make decisions and relate to others. Examples of social learning theories are frequently seen in daily life. One of the most striking examples is how children behave when they imitate their friends, family members, celebrities, and fictional characters on television. Because of these top toys, a youngster may believe that the polar bear is small, charming, and unthreatening. But the polar bear is not as wild and dangerous as kids would imagine it to be.
How can social learning and observational learning contribute to the development of phobias and fear? What are some effective interventions for addressing these issues from a social cognitive perspective?
Social learning and observational learning have a potential to influence the way we experience fear, a common theme that connects. We ultimately reach a point where we feel in control when we are able to distinguish between threats that are real and those that aren't, relabel an experience, and savor the excitement of that particular moment. How we experience and react to terror depends on whether we feel in control of the situation. When we get through the initial fight or flight rush, we frequently feel content, assured of our safety, and better capable of facing the things that previously frightened us. Everyone has a varied sense of what they find thrilling or entertaining, so it's crucial to keep that in mind. One method used to assist people with phobias and other mental health issues is behavior modeling. Patients should be encouraged to attempt new methods, strategies, or medications to assist them overcome their concerns if the initial treatments doesn't produce the intended response or change. There are other alternative methods for changing behavior, some of which work better for particular patients.
Does fear change one's behavior?
Fear can interfere with brain processes that allow us to regulate our emotions, read nonverbal cues, and other information, reflect before acting, and act ethically. This has negative impact on our thinking and decision making, making us vulnerable to intense emotion and impulsive reaction.
And that's it for today's guys. I hope you learned something from us. See you on our next episode.